There are many things I just like to talk about. Recently, having joined the REC, Reformed Episcopal Church, I was researching the continuing Anglican movement. As I have shown up here on my computer, no, I can't show you because my phone camera sucks compared to my computer camera, which I don't know how to access. There are many uh, continuing Anglican denominations which exist. Example: American Anglican Church, American Catholic Anglican Church, the Anglican Catholic Church of Canada, the Anglican Episcopal Church, the Anglican Province of Christ the King, Christian Episcopal Church, Church of England, the continuing one, the Diocese of the Great Lakes, the United Anglican Church, the Reformed Episcopal Church, which is what I joined, the Reformed Anglican Church, the Orthodox Anglican Church, and several others. They're interesting. What I find interesting is when I look at why they left because the Anglican Church in the 70s or 2009 they find as either liberal or stale and dying. So they left the larger Canterbury Communion. Similar events actually happen twice in the past. In the 1700s, during the Methodist movement, which founded uh, the movement, the Wesleyan Methodist Church, the Primitive Methodist Church, the United Methodist Church, the other United Methodist Church of the same name, but not in America, and various holiness denominations like the Nazarene Holiness Movement and the Wesleyan Church, just called that, not to be mistaken for the Wesleyan Methodist Church. So I just thought it was interesting that I thought about it, how the Methodists are basically continuing Anglicans before continuing Anglicanism was cool. It is actually pretty interesting how similar they are as well, because generally speaking, from what I can tell, Methodists are generally more synergistic, while Anglicans more monergistic. But within the continuing Anglican Church and some of the Reformed Welsh Methodist churches, there's a mixture of synergists and monergists. They all generally respect the same Anglican and Methodist theologians, and there is a common cross pollination. The Methodists are pretty much just Anglican who became a little bit more low church. They use the Book of Common Prayer sometimes, depending on the church congregation. They're not Congregationalists; they're usually Episcopal or Presbyterian. But depending on the congregation, some of them are more Anglican than others, while others are more of a Baptist influence. For example, when I was young, I used to go to a Baptist-influenced Methodist church called the Antiochian Methodist Church, which was in Antioch, Arkansas. They were semi-Baptist. For example, they preached like a Baptist, and they were skeptical of the infant baptism that they practiced, some of them outright refusing to baptize their infants, while others are more Anglican-oriented, like the Methodist Church in New York, and some holiness denominations as well. These various Anglican and Methodist movements are not really denominations. They're not a monolith. They may have an overarching communion, such as the Wesleyan Global Conference or whatever it's called. I might not remember what it's called. And the GAFCON, which encompasses a bunch of Anglican RITE rites and Anglican dioceses within the larger Canterburyan or See of Canterbury Anglican Communion, or some who are not in communion with Canterbury. Me personally, I'm in REC, the Reformed Episcopal Church. I do admit, though, I always will say this. I would love that if the REC would, and the ACNA in general, establish communion with Canterbury. Otherwise, we kind of feel like a schismatic group. I do exist within the denomination nonetheless and enjoy it. But I enjoy the Methodists. Recently, I've made some Methodist friends, and my Anglican friends and Methodist friends are talking about how we're essentially the same. Like, Methodists are just basically continuing Anglicans. They're basically Anglicans who are not in communion with the See of Canterbury. That's how I view it. I mean, you might disagree. The Methodists are diverse, but they're pretty cool. Granted, I was raised Methodist when I was young, but my family used to be Methodist in Arkansas, albeit very Baptist flavored. Used to be Baptist flavored Methodist in Arkansas. When we moved to Indiana, we became non-denominationals. Why did we make that jump? I guess we don't like our friends, like Braxton Hunter, which is from the Trinity Radio, and my father's Jonathan Pritchett. You guys may know him. Like he is famous, um, on Trinity Radio, and we our friends was like Brett Nicholson, very cool guy. So I mean, we've made some weird shift from our Baptist flavored Methodist denomination into outright non-denominationals. Never understood it, but we did. Despite that, we still maintain some older, I would say, mentality. More on the Baptist flavored inheritance. Again, it's an interesting thing that happened. I wonder if that would ever happen with Anglicans in the continuing Anglican movement of the 1970s and 2009. I hope not, but it would be funny if there was like this Anglican church somewhere that's Baptist flavored. I'm sure there are probably Anglican churches that are Methodist flavored because there is within the Anglican denomination Wesleyan Anglicans. I have a friend who's a Wesleyan Anglican. He is part of the Anglican church. He's Anglican. He's been Anglican all his life, but he had taken a lot of theology he agrees with from John Wesley and Charles Wesley and the third guy. I can't remember his name. Um, um, why do I not remember his name? He's a pretty cool guy, and I'm gonna have to Google it, which will disorientate the video. Um, George Whitefield. I almost even typed it and I didn't need to. Who was pretty much the founder, well, the first generation founder of the Methodists in Wales. There was a later guy who created a way later, even more Calvinistic flavored Methodism in Wales. And it's very interesting to me. Guys, you guys are wondering what my theology is? I'm generally just an Anglican with a very tilt towards Augustinianism, monergism. Um, mostly Calvinist leaning. I have recently questioned the concept of resistible versus irresistible grace. Um, I'm not really sure about that, so I'm trying to look deeper in that to see where I land. But other than how I view on how resistible or irresistible grace is, or if it's both, depending on the individual, who knows? Maybe some individuals can resist grace while others cannot. Who knows? But I do generally find it interesting how you can have this via media or middle way between the synergists and the monergists, and the middle way between Lutherans, Methodists, and Calvinists within the wider Anglican denomination. I've I've always found it interesting that a lot of Methodists and Anglicans will get along. Even the Catholic Church has a hard time differentiating the two because there are what are they called? Anglican Rite Catholic churches within Roman Catholic Church. Okay, I'm gonna have to Google this one because I don't want to look like an idiot. I need to fact check myself. I look very disorganized, but that's because I am. My videos are not organized. Um, uh, where is it? Oh, can't find it now. This makes me look like an idiot. It's embarrassing my YouTube. Holy Catholic Church Anglican Rite? No, that's not. That's not from the. That's continuing Anglican. Um. This is an awkward part of the video. I can't believe that I forgot the name of the video, and this part of the video is Ordinariate. That's the word. The Anglican Ordinariate. Ah, thank God. Okay. And then we got the Anglican churches and Methodist churches who joined the Anglican Ordinariate. The Catholic Church thinks the Anglicans and Methodists are similar enough that the Anglican Ordinariate is designed to appeal to both. The Anglican Ordinariate is not designed to appeal to the Lutherans or other groups. Why is the Anglican Church doing this? Is because they have a lot of schisms. So right now, the Catholic Church can grab whoever they can. This actually happened in the Middle East. There's like 24 rites in the Middle East. That used to be Eastern and Oriental Orthodox, and I think the Chaldean Church, for example, probably used to be either Syriac or even the Nestorians who rejoined the Catholic Church. I don't remember which. The Catholic Church, if they could, probably would gather several Anglican groups. Hell, there's a denomination of like 5,000 people called the Anglo-Lutheran Church, which is like a merger between Anglicans and Lutherans. It's like what the Via Media does. So much so that the Porvo Communion is probably going to turn the Via Media triangle into more of a Lutheran square. Like, I could be wrong, but I feel like that the Porvo Communion, where the Anglican Church, which is Northern European, Nordic, not Scandinavian Nordic, but like Northern European, with an episcopate, and that the Norwegians, Danes, Swedes, Icelanders, Greenlanders, Faroese, Latvians, Lithuanians, Estonians, and Finns, having their denominations in the same communion as the Anglican Church, you get the idea that the Anglicans might get more Lutheranized over time. The Methodists? I think in the future the Methodists will look like what historic Anglicanism looked like prior to the Porvo Communion. Though I can't say for certain because I don't know what the Methodist Church will be like in a few centuries. No one's really attempting to reunify the Methodists with the Anglicans. If they could, they would have reunified the various Anglican schism groups to the main Canterbury Communion. Me, I would support it. Methodists and the continuing Anglicans reconciling with the Archbishop of Canterbury. Naturally. In the meantime, everything exists as it is. The United Methodist Church and the Episcopal Church in North America, in the United States, they are in a shared pulpit and communion, meaning they can receive each other's communion in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. They can preach at each other's churches, and they can use each other's seminaries for education. So generally, they have general exchanges. And that's amazing, in my opinion. It's what the two groups should do. Any Methodist or Anglican who think there's no salvation in each other's denomination just looks silly. The Methodists are to the Anglicans what the Pietists would be to the Lutherans, or jokingly, what the Catholics are to the Eastern Orthodox, back in 1054 when Pope Gregory left the Orthodox Church. Or if you prefer, the Eastern Orthodox Church left the Catholic Church, however you choose to politically view it in history. I generally would say that each denomination that's further away from Jerusalem is the one that left. The Protestants left the Catholics left the Eastern Orthodox, aka Chalcedonians, left the Orient Orthodox. Each group gets further away from the geography of Jerusalem. Likewise, the Methodists established in North America in Wales, which is further from England, except Wales is just next door, and England is far away from the Jerusalem. So each group that schisms is further away from the Jerusalem church, which is Syriac. It's all interesting to me. And the similarities between each schism group naturally occurs. The Methodists are most similar to Anglicans, the Anglicans most similar to the Catholics. Catholics more similar to the Eastern Orthodox more similar to the Oriental Orthodox. Even though the Catholic, Oriental Orthodox, and Eastern Orthodox all have each other at anathemas. Anyway, God bless you, my brothers and sisters, Anglicans, Methodists, and all the rest of God's branches combined. God bless you. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, have a good day.